Well, that's from the debate. Shami Chakrabarti joins us now. Are you disappointed that your inquiry hasn't closed this issue down?
I think my findings have yet to be fully implemented, but I was delighted to hear that just a few days ago the NEC of the Labour Party has adopted certain aspects of my report, the recommendations on language and conduct and stereotyping. There are some procedural recommendations that have yet to be implemented, not least greater resource for discipline and an in-house counsel.
But at this conference, leaflets have been handed out calling for the expulsion of the Jewish Labour movement from the party. A Labour peer has resigned over anti-Semitism, and a Jewish Labour MP has had to employ personal security to come to the conference. That would suggest it's still a pretty big problem.
Well, there are issues and we can't run away from them.
These are quite serious issues,
They
I would
are
suggest.
serious issues and more has to be done. But I was also heartened to hear a re-elected Jeremy Corbyn used his now even greater mandate to be, I think, clearer than he's ever been with people across the party, including people who claim to be his friends. He's been crystal clear that this is not going to be tolerated going forwards. I think that's incredibly important. Well, no part of our society is immune from anti-Semitism and from racism, as we saw in our referendum campaign.
But it seems to be pretty virulent in the Labour Party at the moment.
Well, I'm not going to get into the competition of virtue or of victimhood. We've had a toxic summer in British politics. We lost a bright young MP in that toxic summer.
I understand that,
but we are doing something that other parties aren't doing.
You see, this is what you and Jeremy Corbyn have done from the start. You try to generalise the anti-Semitism rather than sticking with these specific issues of anti-Semitism. Now, Parry Mitchell left the Labour Party this week, a Jewish peer, because he thought one of the reasons was he described your report as, quote, an anemic whitewash.
Well, I really regret that. I'm sorry to see him go, and I would urge people to actually read my report. I'd urge you to actually read
I've read
your
the report. That's my job.
I don't think there's any whitewash there. I said some very difficult things to the party in the report. What I was not able to do was to name and shame individuals who are still pending discipline. And those, that due process does have to happen.
I understand that, but have you spoken to Parry Mitchell?
I haven't spoken to Lord Mitchell.
Would it not be worthwhile, given what he said, to try and reassure him?
Well, I spoke to him in the run-up to my report, and I know what his concerns are. And when I'm back in London and in Westminster, I will try and speak to him again.
The Jewish Board of Deputies, I guess the most important Jewish organisation, representative organisation in the country, described the report as, quote, a whitewash for peerage scandal.
Well, a particular person described it that way. What I would say is that...
What do you say to that?
I would say that no community is a monolith. No one person speaks on behalf of an entire community, and I had lots of solidarity and gratitude and welcome and support from other members of that community.
Well, a leading Jewish charity said that your report was, quote, a shameless kick in the teeth.
Well, I'm sorry that not everyone agrees with everything that I wrote.
What leading Jewish organisations have supported your report?
I've had support from a number of people in the Jewish Labour movement, from rabbis, from
but I didn't ask about individuals, as you know. I asked what leading representative Jewish organisations have supported your report.
I wrote the report mostly for Jewish members of the Labour Party who were feeling threatened and unwelcome, and interestingly, they crossed the political spectrum.
Sure, but what support have you had? What leading Jewish institution has come out and backed your report?
I'm not doing this for institutions, I'm doing this for people. I know what it's like to have received racism. I've been aware of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party and in the country all my life, and that is what motivated me to do this work, and that is what motivates me still.
Why did you join the Labour Party to do this report? I mean, we've known you've had Labour leanings, but not just for Labour members, but for the wider public that wanted to be reassured this was an independent report. Why join the party to do the report?
Because in my view, if you want to achieve change, and if you want to tell people difficult things about themselves and about their party, it is better to do that honestly from within.
But people respect you as an independent voice. the left-leaning, but not in anybody's pocket.
I'm not in
and not in
any... Forgive me, but I'm not in anybody's pocket. I may have my suspicions about where your leanings are as a broadcaster, but I don't doubt that you are independent. And I am independent too.
But that's what I'm saying. So people respected you as independent. So would you not undermine that by joining the party?
No, because this was a report for the party. This was about saying to my fellow Labour members, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror. This is the party that instituted every piece of equality legislation this country has ever known, and we have to live up to those values ourselves.
But would it not have garnered more weight in the country and even among people in the Labour Party itself if it was seen to be done by an independent outsider? Parties often bring in independent outsiders to review their processes and so on. Usually a lawyer, and you're a lawyer.
Andrew, that is one point of view. But another point of view, and mine, is if you want to say hard truths to any family, if you want to tell people that they are falling down on their values and they need to be their better selves, sometimes it is better to do that from within.
But the problem is that a lot of people don't think you told any hard truths. That you had some minor criticisms, but not hard truths.
I don't think it's a minor criticism to talk about new 21st century epithets that have been used within the party. I don't think it's a minor criticism to talk about the way in which the Holocaust has been prayed in vain. People have used Nazi stereotypes and anti-Semitic stereotypes. I don't think that is running away from hard truths. It's all there in the report, as is the criticism of the disciplinary process, and I really hope and believe now that this toxic summer and this civil war is coming to an end. People from all strands of the party will get behind this report, and we can do better.
When was the prospect of a peerage first discussed with you?
I have dealt with all of these questions, Andrew. You might want to rake over...
Just indulge us. When? Because it's the first time we've had to chat. When the report was published on June the 30th?
Yeah.
When was the prospect of a peerage first discussed? Not the offer, just the prospect.
After the report.
There was no discussion at all beforehand?
It was after my report. It was part of the Prime Minister's resignation honours. I understand.
But there was no, let me just get, there was no discussion of a peerage with anyone in the Labour Party before the report was published?
I have been approached for peerages and other roles. Are you going to let me finish the answer to your question?
Well, because I know
I have been approached over the.
Well,
I haven't claimed that. It's true.
But we can never verify that. I have been approached
by senior politicians.
I'm talking about this particular peerage.
This was
this one.
This particular peerage, which is the only one I've ever owned, was offered to me after the report as part of the Prime Minister's resignation list.
Was it discussed before the report with anybody in the Labour Party?
No.
And when were you offered the peerage? When did Mr Corbyn or his office suggest they'd put you up for that?
It was around the time of the Prime Minister's final PMQs. And I believe that is when the two men had the conversation.
And you had no inkling that you were going to be offered a peerage at any stage?
I have heard all sorts of rumours, and all sorts of people have suggested that I enter Parliament as an MP, that I work for the party, that I do different things, because I joined the Labour Party. But I've had these smears all summer. And
but they're not smears, they're simple factual questions as to find out
and I've answered.
When you were off. Would it not clarify everything, as someone as a former head of Liberty and a great believer in transparency, if you were to publish all correspondence with the Labour Party and yourself on this matter?
Yes, except there isn't any correspondence. But
none at all.
Is there any correspondence? This was an offer that was made to me over the telephone by Mr Corbyn.
So he made it personal?
He made it over the telephone personally, and there'll be other people in his office who will have notes of that, I'm sure.
We learn here that there could be a number of changes to the Shadow Cabinet coming up. Would you be interested in serving in the Shadow Cabinet?
I think that it would be completely presumptuous of me to be making job applications on national
Oh, no,
television. And so I am.
I wasn't asking for a job application. That's saying give us a job. But what I'm saying is that if asked, would you be interested?
I don't think it's appropriate for me to do this. You know yourself that issues around the composition of the shadow cabinet are incredibly sensitive at a time when the party needs to unite behind Jeremy Corbyn. That's the priority.
Sure,
it will be
but-
for him
but-
and his colleagues to. I'm not.
But
I'm
there are
not going to
60
speculate.
vacancies in the shadow cabinet or shadow positions. Mr. Corbyn needs some new and fresh talent. I think everybody would agree that you can be filed under new and fresh talent. Wouldn't it be part of the unity project to join Mr. Corbyn's team?
I will try and help this party and help the unity project. I'm trying to right now by sitting here. I will do everything I can to help that project to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. But the best way for me to help is for other people to decide.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Shami Chakrabarti,
Thank
thank
you.
you.